Is Candace good or nah? Candace dick fit in your mouth? Kirara, Barbara, Yao Yao, 4-star Nilou team. Playing Nilou without Nahida is shooting yourself in the foot. Like, you can be able to clear things, it's just gonna be incredibly painful. Because in Nilou teams, a lot more of your damage is reliant on your reaction damage, right? So if you do 20% less reactions, that's basically just doing 20% less damage. When you look at Hyper Bloom teams, you're more incentivized to build your Hydro units with, like, damage stats and personal damage. Because the Hydro units are not the ones whose Elemental Mastery is looked at for their reactions. Which means that more often than not, losing 20% of your reactions won't make you lose 20% of your damage, because you still have all your talent damage that doesn't get affected, and it's more like losing 10% of your damage. So basically, it gets affected a lot more from not having Nahida. It's also a lot harder to maintain a Dendro Aura if you don't have Nahida. And then when you start swapping your aura between two elements, your amount of reactions also goes down. All in all, like, you can do it, and it can be fine, but it's definitely not going to be a good experience. And it's not something I would recommend. Will I pull for Klee or look for the meme? No. Keep in mind, chat, I haven't spent money on Genshin since... I don't know how long it's been by now. Almost 2 years, I think. And I really don't intend on that changing anytime soon. Which means the Primogems that I have are not infinite. I can't just pull for every unit. So if I go for Klee or Eula or both, that means that there's going to be characters I won't be able to go for in the future. And if there are characters that do cool things, I'm going to hate myself. How do you have 80k? I mean, that's what happens when you don't spend your Primogems. What's a good number of Fav weapons to keep versus refine? Like, how many Fav weapons should we keep at R1 instead of refining? The reality is, if you need Fav on more than one character on your team, it's always better to have them not refined. Right? And because I can't see the future, I don't know how many Claymore characters they're going to release that want Fav. How many Polearm characters they're going to release that want Fav. How many, and so on and so forth, right? Because of that, it's always a potential long-term risk to refine your Fav weapons, because you very well might run into a situation where you've refined your Fav weapons because you only had like 2 characters that needed Fav Sword, so you just kept 2, one at R5, the other one at R3, and then a new character comes up that synergizes with the characters that you're using that are already using Fav Sword, and their best in slot weapon is also Fav Sword, and then you don't have a Fav Sword for them, and you're like, yeah, man, gosh darn it. Right? I think it's somewhat safe to just look at the amount of characters that you have that need Fav and that will be played at the same time, do +1 to that, and keep that amount of Fav weapons. Right? So, I'm never really going to use 2 characters with... That's not true. I can use, like, Zhongli Yunjin on one team, and then want Fav on another team. So it would be nice for me to have 3 Fav weapons. But realistically, I won't play Yunjin only on one team, because I don't really play Yoimiya, and it's not like Yunjin's that great for other teams. So I'd probably, like, if I got 2 more Fav Lances right now, I'd probably refine 1 and keep a total of 3. Because I'm generally only ever going to need 2, and I'll have 1 more if a unit gets released in the future. But it also depends on how risk-averse you are, basically. What quality of life that Hoyo has implemented in Star Rail do I think they'll import to Genshin Impact in 4.0, if any? So, I don't think they're gonna import too many quality of life features. Like, I really, like, sometimes I say it with a smile on my face, which might imply that I'm joking. I'm not. I really do think that part of Hoyo's marketing strategy is they know that Genshin has reached a much larger audience than most gacha games do. And they're trying to use Genshin to funnel players into their other gacha games. To funnel non-gacha players into their other gacha games. And I think that one of the main ways that they're trying to do it is by keeping some shitty quality of life things in Genshin and making, like, actually having quality of life fixes for those things in their other games. So that if you're annoyed by the feature in Genshin and you hear, hey, Star Rail has this feature, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I should give Star Rail a try. Because the reality is that all of the psychological tactics that gacha games use to try to incentivize you to spend money, most gacha players either have already fallen for them or have already figured them out so they won't. Right? Non-gacha players are still very naive and innocent. So that's a whole ass audience that they've reached with Genshin that can be milk dry of money without them realizing it. Because of that, I don't actually think, like, I think they don't want you to be so annoyed with Genshin that you're gonna quit. But they also don't want you to be fully satisfied with Genshin, because then you won't have a reason to try their other games. They want to keep you in a nice sweet spot in the middle, where the game doesn't annoy you so much that you quit, but it doesn't satisfy you enough that you're not gonna bother trying their other games. Because they know that most of their casual Genshin audience is never gonna go and fucking try Arc Knights or Epic 7. They know that most of their casual Genshin audience isn't actively looking for gacha games. But when they release Star Rail, it's not just a gacha game, it's a game by the people who make Genshin. Anyways, because of that, like I said, I think that they're gonna implement some quality of life features, but they're also gonna actively refuse to implement some others. I wonder what a unit built around burning would be like. Something like Kave healing from Bloom cores to help mitigate self-damage? Nah. I think you'd have something to increase burning AoE for sure. Like, I kinda wanna see a character that's like something similar to Yao Yao, with that additional resistance to pyro damage, on top of like a bunch of things that make them, that like buff the things that burning can do. But like, again, right, it's not about buffing the reaction, burfing, true. It's not about buffing the reaction itself, it's about having a character that's meant to work with a like modified version of burning that you wouldn't be able to use in a team that is not focused around burning. Oh no. Alright. Okay, so there's a plugin that's supposed to notify me when my prayer's low, but it's only supposed to notify me once, but for some reason, it just sends a notification over and over again until I tab in. So if I don't tab in, it will literally just keep doing brdum, 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 brdum. And it just won't fucking stop. And it's very annoying. And I wish I knew how to prevent it from doing that while still having the plugin, because I need to know when I'm about to run out of prayer, you know? There is one thing that right now I feel is a problem, and that problem is that archetypes are too well established, and they only release units that fit into pre-existing archetypes anymore. And it's really cringe because it severely hinders creativity, and it makes it so that every new unit is just a weaker or stronger version of a unit that already exists. I was really happy with Deia's design, but because they made her a unit that actually fits into a different archetype, like, sure, it is like an on-field vape, but like, it plays so differently than the teams that use Singto, right? It still felt different. When I play Deia Hyper, I feel like I'm playing a whole new team that wasn't really a thing you could do in the game before she came out. But I also feel like I'm fucking unhappy and hating my life because the team just really sucks because their numbers are really bad, right? But it's like every unit that isn't meant to fit into a pre-existing archetype, they just make their numbers kind of cringe, and that just leads to the meta being really, really stale. Like, it makes the meta so fucking stale. Especially considering that they've basically only been releasing Dendro units recently, like mostly Dendro units. Like almost half of the units released since 3.0 or Dendro. And like, I get that they needed to catch up because there were no Dendro units before, but holy fuck, man. When every new unit is just oh, Baiju came out, well, he's generally a side grade to a pre-existing unit. Okabe came out? Well, he's kind of just a downgrade to basically any other Dendro unit. Oh, was that Kirara? Well, hey, you've got a side grade as a defensive option to Yao Yao again. Oh, Ahaitham came out? Well, he's kind of just Tichnari, but with actual AoE and just, like, normal attack synergy, so you can actually play him in teams that use Hingso, like Hyper Bloom teams. And it's like every unit recently has just felt like... Why is he talking in his YouTube voice? Because I'm passionate, Nick. You don't understand. But every unit recently has just felt so fucking repetitive. It's played into pre-existing archetypes only. And the only exceptions to that are so fucking bad that it doesn't matter. Kirara, breath of fresh air? No! Kirara's just a fucking side grade to Yao Yao, man. That's boring as shit! You can be a cat in a box. And? Downgrade? I mean, yeah, she's generally a downgrade, but she does offer resistance to interruption, which is a slight upgrade. So, generally a slight downgrade, but situationally an upgrade. You get the point, right? Not enough of a downgrade that, like, I would emphasize the down. It's a side grade-ish. Like, fuck it. Give us a Geo character that has a passive like Nilou's. Where instead of it being, like... I mean, I've talked about the idea of, like, a character like Nilou that makes Crystallize do damage. But also just, if you take only the restriction part of Nilou and separate it from the buff part of her, right? A lot of my issues with the way that Nilou is restricted is that what she does isn't just like a numbers thing, it's a cool new interaction. And having that restriction prevents you from experimenting with that interaction outside of purely Bloom teams, right? That's why I have an issue with Nilou's design. But the concept of restrictions, of characters like Goro that give you bigger buffs depending on how many characters of an element you have in your party, make a character that's a Geo character that doesn't really do any damage or apply any Geo, but that has a passive where you gain like crit damage based on the amount of characters of the same element different from Geo that you have in your party. So that you want to play fucking Ayato Singso Yelan and that character. And the buff is big enough that you can actually justify not playing an animal unit. Like, give us things that incentivize new and different teams, not just the same fucking archetype with different units. Give us a unit where your passive is that you fucking quadruple the effect of elemental resonances. So you can use it to, like, cheat out a fuck ton of cooldowns on your animal units. Or a fuck ton of attack on your pyro units. Or a fuck ton of HP on your hydro units. Or a fuck ton of EM on your dendro units. Just, like, give us something, man! Do 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 do.